Hello and welcome to blockchaingamer.biz, our weekly roundup. Make sure you check out our news on blockchaingamer.biz, follow us on Twitter at BCGBiz, and connect with us on LinkedIn at blockchaingamer.biz. Today is Friday, the 22nd of September, and I'm your host, Jenny Jordan, and with me today is co-host John Jordan. Hi, John.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Back to your old favourite.
Say that again.
Back to your old favourite hat.
Mojo Melee, yes. Well, it's actually, I've sort of fallen out a little bit with it, in love with the Mojo Melee game. But I did see today, this week, that they had this Mojo Run, which I thought was quite cool. And I thought, maybe that will sort of get me back
different
into
sort of game, Endless runner, get
into the Mojo Planet Mojo universe. I quite like the characters, and I would, I like the game.
Well, I think that's the point of having the sort of platform approaches, or whatever you want to call them, where people maybe don't like auto chess. It's it's a sort of a mid-core sort of genre, but maybe you can if you have one of the Mojo NFTs. I don't really know what they're doing with NFTs in that Mojo Run thing, but endless runners kind of popular. Yeah, it looked nice.
Yeah. Good. So there's been some major news this week, some more big investments, which we'll get back to talking a bit more about. What else? We've had XP LA has announced collaboration with the Web3 ad tech company Nefta.
Yeah, there's a lot of infrastructure stuff going on, isn't there? Sort of everyone's finished the holidays and back to work and.
There's quite a lot of news coming out. Evergotchi has launched their game center, and which is kind of a hub with Gotchiverse games that are set to go on their own Gotchiverse blockchain eventually. My Pet Hooligan has gone live on Epic Games Store, and they're also the third Web3 company, right? Web3 game that's got this Amazon Prime campaign going. Is that right?
I think it's the. So we've got Blanco's, Mojo Melee, and My Pet Hooligan, which is it'd be interesting to see how that one goes. It's sort of got quite a strong sort of community. So it's an LA-based company with sort of experience in mainly sort of animation type stuff. I don't think they have the company behind it. I don't think it wasn't a games company. It was more on the sort of the animation sort of side of stuff. And they came up with these bunnies. As much as I always tell myself, don't with NFTs, it's not about the art style. It's not an art style that I particularly like, but people I know do seem to like it, and it's sort of this. I guess it is this sort of punk bunny thing. So I guess it's sort of the funny thing is they're bunnies, but they're sort of quite bunnies. They're quite grotesque sort of bunnies. Anyway, and they have I have to admit, I've not played it. It is a sort of shooter, battle royale sort of shooter, but sort of not quite an open world, but you're sort of wandering around this sort of city. So a little bit like a sort of, just a sort of open city where you wander around. They had this whole thing. They're very, I guess, because of the animation style, they spent a lot of time on sort of their backstory and had this thing like Zook bots or something. They for some reason didn't like Mark Zuckerberg very much. I think when he was doing all his metaverse stuff, so they had this whole thing about you're shooting the Zook bots.
Okay.
So anyway, I don't know how that plays into it all, but anyway, it's I was thinking sort of as we've sort of covered quite a lot really, and I went through it again, and I can't remember the number. I think it's over 60 games now on the Epic Games Store, blockchain games. I think it is something like that, but it's sort of going up all the time.
You did write a piece about that this week about kind of these platform PC games platforms, how they're sort of almost competing for titles, and they compete and have them exclusively, and then you find out when you actually, it's not hard research really. You go on the other platforms and you find, they've also got our titles. It wasn't so exclusive then, but
yes, no, it was basically got a press release from one of the other PC game sort of launchers or sort of sites for blockchain games called Elixir, and it was talking about their exclusives and how many exclusives they had, and it does get sort of confusing because obviously people are putting out games on Steam, which is the biggest by far platform for blockchain for PC games, but doesn't allow any NFTs. So a lot of people have sort of ended up in this situation where they go, we'll do a Web 2, like a traditional version of our PC game on Steam, and we'll have a Web 3 version that we'll either have on our website or we'll put it through one of these other platforms. And we'll sort of use Steam to sort of, for people who might like our game but don't like NFTs, they can just play the game. But for people who want to get into the game, we'll sort of upsell them the NFT version of it. So no one's done that at scale yet. No one knows if that really works at all. But you sort of have this sort of slightly weird situation where, you people have stuff on Steam and then they're exclusive on maybe one of these other platforms. Obviously, Epic Game Store is after Steam the big PC game distribution platform, where they're nothing like as big as Steam. And they've been quite open for blockchain games. So I say like 60 blockchain games. Blankos was the first one to go live on there. There's quite a few other ones. Most of those 60 titles are not live yet. I would think only about 20 of them are live. But there is sort of stuff out there, and I guess it's people. Exclusivity I think is quite a difficult business model. It's different if you're sort of Sony and Microsoft and that you're selling these massive consoles. For everything else, it's sort of, and certainly for blockchain games, there's just not enough people there. None of these platforms have enough sort of audience for it to make a lot of sense, because you sort of go, the platform wants exclusivity because there's a super hot game that's only available on its platform, so everyone's going to come to its platform and sign up to get the super hot game. Well, none of those blockchain games are super hot. It's just not a category. So you're not going to drive. You're not going to drive a lot. You're not going to drive a lot of users to come to your platform when they, then they just, I've got Steam, I don't care. And for the game companies, they just want distribution, but exclusivity sort of means either they'll get sort of good marketing or maybe they'll get paid, some payment up front. But none of these blockchain games platforms have a lot of money. They don't have millions of dollars to throw around like Epic Games would. So it's sort of, I find it sort of either sort of funny or sad that people talk about exclusive stuff on these games that even people in the space have never heard of. It's sort of like, it's pointless. We should point out, because you're not wearing your Ultra hat on this podcast, but Ultra is also sort of doing some stuff where they're starting to tokenize some games, and it is interesting. Where I've got this big spreadsheet, I did a video about it, where you can sort of, some games are sort of going to be on all the platforms. Some of them are just on Steam and one other, and but it is interesting that Ultra has an advantage where it is going to be tokenizing the game. So if it's a paid game, it's an NFT, so it's essentially sort of resale thing going on there. But, most games are not paid games, so how well that'll play out. But I guess it's interesting. Each platform sort of has its own sort of unique selling point, maybe, but we'll see.
It's a little bit like those games that mobile games. They initially launched on the app stores when it was NFTs weren't allowed, or no Web3 were basically allowed, but they still launched as a way of trying to sort of funnel players into the Web3 games. So maybe that's why they're doing it, going on Steam still, in the sort of hopes that eventually maybe Steam will change their policy. Yeah,
well, I think just generally, if you're doing a PC game, Steam is a good marketing platform. So even they have this thing called wish lists, and it's that's a way of sort of, you go to people, put it on your wish list, and that's what sort of, everyone on Steam has these massive wish lists of hundreds of games that they can never play. But it's sort of like a pre-order, sort of like a pre-order. You're not spending any money, but it's people very much look at what is the top 10 of Steam wish list games, and that sort of becomes a marketing tool in of itself. So you could potentially see some blockchain games maybe using that, but then actually launching on another platform entirely, but they're using sort of Steam as part of their general marketing mix. As I say, most of this stuff's not out yet, so it's hard to judge, and I guess we'll see with
I know, it was interesting. So last week I did an interview with Mythical's CEO John Linden, and he spoke a bit about platforms and distribution of their games, and how sort of they're still working on trying to get their games out on other platforms. Obviously, Blankos now is going to go on mobile and through the app stores, because of the way that they've launched NFL Rivals, and they've worked closely with the app stores in almost like educating them on Web3, and they are, for that reason, building up trust and opening up their policies towards sort of Web3 games. Then,
well, I thought the other thing that was interesting from, like I said, Blankos was the first blockchain game to go live on the Epic Store. But as John pointed out, he says basically we got it to about, I can't remember, like 1 million or over 1 million users, and then you just can't market PC games after a certain a certain level, it's sort of you sort of tapped out your audience who are interested in that game, and it's just super expensive to to advertise to PC gamers, and PC gamers sort of want to spend $50 on a game sort of thing.
It's about 5 to 10% the price of a mobile game.
Mobile games is there's much more just infrastructure and many more mobile gamers, so it's just much easier to market mobile games.
So you did an interview as well this week with Star Atlas CEO.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Well, interview wasn't this week. It was a bit tardy in getting that one up. Yeah, so I had a chat. Was it last week? I think with Michael Wagner, for CEO. Yeah, and it was good actually. I'd spoken to him before, really in the early days of Star Atlas, and obviously that project has sort of suffered, as we've sort of written about. Suffered quite considerably. So you sort of argue it's been a bit of a poster boy for how not to sort of run a blockchain game, really, in terms of the money they've lost. And I can't remember, they went from 330. So the trajectory of the company was they went from 4 people to 300, 235 in about a year. So and that was all distributed, so no offices, all through Discord, and they had tons of money, so that's clearly what they're doing. And now they're back down to 45. So it's an incredible trajectory. And obviously, you wouldn't want to do that. It's sort of imagine quite soul destroying to tackle those people and blah blah blah. But it's quite a robust figure.
It doesn't seem soul destroyed to me.
No. I mean, I think if it was me, I would have just given up and shut the whole thing down. But he was very much like, no, I never decided to do that. And really, and he was. You can maybe disagree with certainly some of the decisions they've made potentially, and maybe even disagree with how they're building out this project. I mean, I'm not a game developer, so I'm sort of looking at it secondhand sort of thing. But what is interesting is whether you think they're ever going to build out their big ambitious project. In the end, is they're actually now shipping loads of stuff. So they've got this. They're sort of shipping different components. So they've got this fully on-chain economic simulator, just a Web 2, a 2D browser game. I think it's out now, actually. They're launching it yesterday. I haven't not looked at it. Called Sage Labs. And then they've got sort of Sage, which is sort of, Sage Labs is part of that Sage project, which is building out that economic simulation into a sort of a browser 3D game. And then they've got the big Epic thing, Unreal, the Unreal Engine sort of space game, which is a long way off now. I think that's really that's been pushed into the future. But even on that side, they do have a sort of a pod racing game coming out again on the Epic Game Store. So I think that's the end of the year. They're planning to get that out. So if you have an NFT ship, you can race these sort of ships around and stuff. So it was sort of an interesting, maybe it's more sort of business management type sort of part of the end of the interview where he's saying, with 45 people, we're sort of doing a lot more than we were moving a lot faster than we were with 200 people, because there's not, we don't have all these management layers, and the people who are now in the company, are really committed to it. Everyone else has left, so we'll see how they get on. I mean, I sort of wish them well, and he's had a big vision for Solana. He thinks he's not coming off Solana. He's not going cross chain. He thinks Solana is the place he can build this massive economic, model around space games and stuff. So, in a sense, sort of good luck to them. I mean, they are probably going to have to get some more funding, I would think. That's sort of probably their big struggle over the next sort of year or so. But we'll see.
Now, talking of funding.
Aha.
Last week we reached quite a milestone. Well, I say we, as if I'm part of it. Web3 gaming broke the 1 billion level for funding in 2023, much thanks to 20 million going into Animoca's Mochaverse project. And then this week we saw another massive investment into proof of plays on-chain RPG Pirate Nation. So can you tell us a little bit about how in this climate you can raise 33 million? I mean, what's that sales pitch? What's the appeal?
I mean, just to point out, like $1 billion is nothing compared to last year. Last year there was $1 billion announced in January alone. So unless something very weird happens, the sector's not going to hit $2 billion this year. And last year it was $8 billion. So massively down. as anyone who's trying to raise funding at the moment knows, it's all it's just like trying to get blood out of the stone. Yeah. Particularly in the West. In Asia, a bit easier, I think. But yeah, it's just people have moved on. VC's looking at AI clearly. So in terms of these guys, proof of play. One of the reasons they're a US studio, and the founder is called Amit. I can't pronounce his second name. Can't remember. But anyway, he is sort of absolutely part of the sort of West Coast San Francisco gaming VC elite. So he had a company about 20 years ago that got bought by Zynga that was just making sort of casual games. But he got into Zynga at the time when Zynga was like at its prime. So he was actually sort of involved in Farmville, and Farmville was really the game that made Zynga a massive company. If people don't remember, it was just when Facebook was starting out, and Farmville was the first big game, certainly, or you could almost say app on Facebook. And everyone was sort of pinging their friends and saying, "Can you send me some lives, or not lives, but send me some stuff." And Facebook was basically full of all these. You could message everyone openly on Facebook. It's so spammy. Anyway, Farmville was a massive hit, and it was like one of these first sort of socially connected games. He was involved in that, so obviously that was good for Zynga. He made money out of that, I imagine, being part of Zynga. He was actually CTO of Zynga Japan at one point. All this sort of. So he's a smart guy. He left Zynga. He set up a Facebook marketing company that got bought by Google. So he's been involved. He set up two companies and sold one to Zynga and one to Google. So clearly, as an entrepreneur, he's really good. He's got his own VC company that he's been running for the last sort of 7 years or so, which focuses on AR and VR. Generally stuff, also some gaming. So he's in the VC space. He knows all the VCs. He's an entrepreneur, and now he's sort of set up this company called Proof of Play. So in a sense, those sort of guys, it's impossible for them not to raise money. They are just he's swimming in exactly the same sea as all these people. I guess what was interesting about the round, you said it's fairly large, 33 million seed. So there's not been that's the biggest seed round we've had really since Azra Games did 35 million, again led by A16Z end of last year, and Fractal did 35 million in April last year. So we just don't see those. Not even in the boom years, we don't see those big seed rounds. And if people don't know about that, sort of how these things work, if you're given $33 million, founders generally don't like to sell more than 20% of their company. So if you sort of do the maths on that, it sort of suggests the valuation is certainly over $100 million, maybe as much as 150. I'm totally guessing on that one. So the company is valued at already, is being valued at a high level. A16Z, they're the big sort of founders in this space. They do games and crypto. They've got tons of money to throw around, and they tend to like to do big rounds because it makes them look good. What was interesting, because I'm geeky on this stuff, I like to see who else is in the round. So what other VCs or people are funding this company? And there weren't really many other VCs. So there was A16Z and this company called Green Oaks, who are a proper VC, but a very traditional VC, not a games VC, not a crypto VC. They've done a bit of crypto in the past, right. But not very much at all. So it's interesting that they got in there. I don't know why. Maybe they had a connection to the founders. So those were the two co-leads. And then the rest of the round, so probably the co-leads would have done over half of it, maybe 20 million, I'm totally guessing. Then the rest of the companies involved in the round were what we would call strategics. So Zynga put some money in. Obviously, they have track record with the guy. And then there was some sort of crypto companies. So Firebase, I think they're called, and I can't remember what the other ones are. Alchemy and a few others who are not really VCs. Not VCs. They're companies in the crypto space who just sort of invest. For sort of non. They don't want to lose their money, but they're not doing it from a purely VC point of view. And then there was a couple of angels. There's a guy called Naval and a guy called
I got it here actually. Balagi, the founders of
Balagi, yeah. So he's super fake. Both those are like if you're going to pick the two most famous angel investors into crypto and tech, you pick those two. So again, they're like the founder of the company. They're Indian, born in India, so they're sort of Indian American entrepreneurs. So it's a very sort of textbook VC round, I think, from that point of view. As for the game, what's interesting, I guess, is they got a game out called Pirate Nations, which is sort of in beta. It's not, as a product, doesn't seem that super cool to me. It's a turn-based pirate sort of game where you have a pirate ship and you're attacking other stuff. It's deck building in terms of the sort of mechanic. So you have energy, a certain energy per round, and you sort of use that. I guess what's interesting with his background in Farmville is the social element. So it's very much a social game. But you won't get that virality that you would have got with Facebook back in the day, of course. And I guess the other sort of interesting bit is it's fully on chain. So they're using NFTs are on Ethereum, or I think they're Ethereum, and gameplay will be on Arbitrum Nova, which is a sort of fast version of Arbitrum for gaming. But all the tools and stuff they're using to make the game are going to be open sourced. So they're sort of building games. They got more than one game. They only announced this Pirate Nations one, but there's other games coming, and they got all these tools. Hard to make money off open source tools, in my opinion. But if you look at it as a company, like an experienced group of people know what they're doing, have a sort of coherent business model. Whether it works out, who knows? That's all. That's the uncertainty. But it's sort of. Despite all that, it's sort of good for the sector to have these big funding rounds, even if it doesn't change anything. There's still not a lot of money out there, apart from the likes of A16Z. There are some of these big VCs still have the money. So we'll see. But I think sort of good to see, and we'll keep an eye on how it goes.
Yeah, actually good. Thank you very much, John, and thank you for listening or watching. And we will see you all next week.
Goodbye. Bye.